We have seen it all before. The UK economy is doing great. At least that's what the government says. But the reality is something completely different. Because while the government is making record tax revenues, more and more people are going hungry. More and more people are choosing to take their own lives. And more children are living in absolute poverty. So here are some facts and figures that will show you how bad the situation actually is. Number 1. In 2021, 14 million people were living in poverty. This is equivalent to 22% of the entire UK population. Now, there are many different types of poverty. We have relative poverty, which is when people have less than 2/3 of the median income of the country, and absolute poverty, which means not having enough money to afford basic goods and services. Now, although both are bad, absolute poverty is worse. And it's measured by the minimum income standard, 8, which includes essential spending on housing, food, and according to this measure, the number rises to almost 2 million people in the UK. Child poverty rates have reached levels last seen during the Great Depression in the 1930s. Child poverty in the UK is now affecting 2.5 million children. That's 1 in 4 of all children. It's the highest level since records began 30 years ago, and it's especially pronounced in areas with high proportions of children from ethnic minorities. For example, 56% of children from Pakistani families live in poverty, compared to 28% of white British children. Number 3. 1.7 million people in the UK are homeless, and most of them are in private rented accommodation. The number of households in temporary accommodation has increased by 65% since 2010. And the number of people sleeping rough on the streets, 2010 as well. Number 4. Low pay has become endemic. Nearly 1 in 5 workers earn less than the real living wage of £11.20 an hour. And for those on 0-hour contracts, the figure is even higher. 38.7% of 0-hour workers are earning less. Low pay affects men and women equally, but it disproportionately affects minority ethnic groups, disabled people, and young people under 25. Number 5. After taking everything into account, including benefits, the poorest fifth of the population are 12% worse off since 2010. But the richest fifth have actually gained 2%. No. 6. The UK is running out of affordable homes. There are just 67 affordable homes built for every 1,000 households in the 1970s. And if the current trend continues, then there will be just 46 affordable homes for every 1,000 households by 2035. Number 7. Despite record tax revenues, the UK's public finances are a complete mess. Borrowing has risen dramatically. Public net debt is expected to reach £3.3 trillion in 2023, and this makes the UK the most indebted country in the G7. Even more indebted than the USA government spending has also risen massively. In 2010, day-to-day spending was £618 billion. In 2023, an increase of 64.5%, and that's mostly down to interest payments on the UK's massive debt. Now, to make matters worse, the government keeps lying about the figures. They manipulate the data in order to make themselves look better. So, for example, the Prime Minister recently said that 300,000 people had been lifted out of poverty. 2010. But he did unspecify which poverty he was talking about. If it was absolute poverty, then his statement would be correct. But if it was relative poverty, then his statement is completely false. In fact, the number of people in relative poverty has risen from 12.7 million in 2010 to 14 million today. So either the Prime Minister is lying or he's misinformed. And these facts and figures I've just shared with you don't even tell the whole story. They don't even scratch the surface. For example, they do unmention the hundreds of thousands of people who work full-time but still rely on food banks. And I know this might sound incredible, but the Trussell Trust reports that 750,000 people referred to food banks in the last year were in employment. And this figure has risen 39% in the last 3 years. Can you imagine working a full-time job, contributing to the growth of the UK economy, and still needing to use a food bank? Well, it's happening across the UK right now. And many of these people are in insecure, low-paid jobs without sick pay, holiday pay, or pension contributions. And often they being forced to use food banks. Let them have time off to attend doctor or dentist appointments. Oh, they unable to afford the travel costs to get to work. Or they have childcare responsibilities. The situation is so dire that according to a report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, 7 million people are now skipping meals because they can't afford to eat. 7 million people are also struggling to pay their energy bills, and the situation is getting worse. And worse, energy prices have soared by 124% in the last 2 years. 44% of low-income households are behind on their energy bills and are borrowing money to cover the costs, and 14% are not paying their energy bills at all. In fact, the UK has one of the highest rates of self-disconnection in Europe. This is where people decide to disconnect themselves from energy sources such as gas, electricity, or heating oil in order to save money. The rate is 11.4% in the UK, compared with 6.3% in France, 5.3% in Germany, and just 1.5% in Denmark. According to OWN's data, average weekly earnings, adjusted for inflation, have fallen by 13.5% since 2010. The figure is even worse, minus 17.7%. Real wages have only increased once in the last 13 years. So the next time you hear a politician telling you that the economy is doing great, remember the millions of people who are struggling to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Remember the millions of people who are working hard but still living in poverty, and the millions who have given up looking for a job. Remember that the government has the power to change this situation. They could invest in social housing, stop lying about the figures, and help people in need. But instead, they're building fewer affordable homes than ever before. They're lying about the figures, and they're pushing more and more people into poverty. What do you think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Please make sure you share this video. If you really enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up. Until next time.